Hey guys, I'm Jessie, and today we are going to talk about the 9 books that I managed to read in the month of April. I'm pretty proud of myself. I read 9 books. That's a lot for me. It's a lot, especially since I have, kids and I'm still working from home. But I'm impressed with myself. Some of these books are super short, so that might be why. But it's a pretty hefty stack. And then I have 2 that are still like in progress, so we're not gonna count those, the other 2. So these are all the ones that I have completed. And 1 is an ebook. And the other 8 are physical books. So as always, I'm gonna start out by giving you my star stats, let you know what kind of reading month it is. I only had 1 2-star book this month. I had 3 3-star books. I had 3 4-star books. And I had 1 5-star book. So all in all, pretty good month. I enjoyed my reading this month. So normally I start out with my least favorite book and work up to my favorite book. And I'm still going to do that, but I want to tell you about the 2 books that I have in progress because I'm like halfway done with both of them. One of them was on my initial TBR, and that is The Great Hunt. It's a long book, y'all. Those books, the Wheel of Time books, take me what feels like forever to read, whereas I can fly through so many books. The Wheel of Time takes some dedication, some time, and some brain power, so they just take me longer to read. So I am halfway through The Great Hunt and loving it. I am also not quite halfway through with Warbreaker, which was not on my initial TBR. It was one that I picked up through the month because I had Amazon digital credits, so I picked it up on ebook. And it is one that I am reading while I'm spinning at night, while I'm doing my spin workout. So it's enjoyable. I'm really loving it. But those are the 2 that I have not finished yet. And now we'll get into the ones that I have finished, starting with my lowest rated book of the month, which you're gonna possibly hate me, or I don't know. This is a very loved book, and I am not in the loved it camp. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Y'all, I'm not going to talk much about this. I gave it 2 stars. I plan on filming a full, rant review for it because there's just some things I need to talk about. And I did vlog my whole experience reading this, and I started kind of watching back some of the footage, and it's freaking hysterical. Like, my reactions are just a lot of what the fucks and a lot of like confusion as to why this is as loved as it is. I didn't DNF it though. I finished it and I gave it 2 stars because there were some things I liked about it, but worst book of the month, totally not. I didn't get the hype. Next, we're going to move on to my 3-star books, and the first 3-star book I read this month was also not on my initial TBR. And that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. If you've seen that video, the super hyped series that I have not read yet, this is one of them, and I did finally read Shadow and Bone, and it was okay. Like, it was 3 stars. It was okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was 3 stars. So it would definitely be on the lower end of the 3-star rating for me because I enjoyed myself. I read it fast. It was good. It wasn't great. I don't understand some of the love for it, but it also falls on the younger side of YA, I feel like, and I'm old, So it's just gonna be my life. I'm older and it falls on the younger side of YA. And while it is good, there were some things, like looking back, like I know so many people like love the Darkling and I'm like, I don't get that. I don't understand it. But I will be continuing on with this one. Unlike The Cruel Prince, where I like have no desire to read the second book in the series, I do want to continue on with the Grisha series. Moving on, the next book that I read that was one of my 3-star books is the first book in the Benti trilogy. As you can see, it's super short. I flew through this. This would definitely be at the higher scale of 3. And I loved it. But there was a lot that I wanted more of, and it's probably just because it was so short. I'm not used to short books, like really short books. I read like long epic tomes, so I wanted more of the world. There was like questions that I still had, but I still gave it 3 stars because I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed this book, and that leads into my next book, which is another 3 stars, my last 3 stars, and that was the 3rd book, Benti Night Masquerade, and it is the longest of the trilogy. It was another 3-star book. It was a good wrap up to the series, and I really enjoyed it. Definitely the higher end of the scale. And then I gave the second book in the trilogy 4 stars because it was my favorite of the 3. So I read all 3 of the books in this series this month, and I really recommend this. It is an African inspired, super futuristic sci-fi little series, and it's just really good, y'all. It's got like deep African roots and a lot of space travel. It gets a little dark. It's definitely adult. It is not YA. It, deals with trauma and PTSD and finding yourself and who you are and accepting who you are and not letting other people tell you who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to live, and being able to just embrace yourself. And I just loved everything about this series. Like, definitely, if you have not read these, go pick them up. Like I said, I flew through them so fast. I got my copies on Book Outlet, and as far as I know, they are still on there. So if you want to go pick them up, pick them up. If you have read these, let me know if you enjoyed them as much as I did. All right, now we're gonna move on to my 4-star reads, which were my favorite books this month. And first and foremost, we're going to talk about Crystal Crowned, which is the last book in the Air Awakens series. I finally finished it, and it was so good, y'all. It was a great conclusion, a great, beautiful ending to this YA fantasy series that I've been reading since the beginning of the year. And I really, really loved the entire journey of the entire series. I would give the entire series 4 stars. And it was a 5-book young adult fantasy series. It borders on older young adult with some darker themes, and there's definitely, death, and there's violence, and there's torture. So yeah, it's definitely on the older side of young adult, but it was so good. And the last book just wrapped it up really beautifully. And I know there is more books in this world which are set after the events of the last book, so I will eventually get those. I read them on Kindle Unlimited, and I think all of the books are on Kindle Unlimited, even the next ones in the world. So I will definitely be picking those up. But if you haven't, and if you have Kindle Unlimited, get this series, because it's a really good one. I feel like it's super underhyped, but I love it. It was so good. There's not really much else I can say about it, though, because it's the 5th book in a series, and anything I say will spoil the first books. But I'm sure if you've been around here, you've heard me gush about this series before and any of my other monthly wrap-ups. So definitely pick that one up. The next book that I read and gave 4 stars was Ash Princess. And this is another young adult fantasy series. This is the first book in a trilogy, and it was enjoyable. It is about this princess who has her kingdom and land stolen from her when she is 6 years old. These people come in and they invade. They kill her mother, who is the queen, and they enslave all the people. But they let her live in the palace, but she's basically a puppet for this new regime. So if there is an uprising of, her people, then they publicly beat her because to kind of keep them in line. So this is her story and how she is torn between this world that she's grown up in and this world that she knows is hers. And it's such a good story. There is a love triangle, which not my favorite. We all know that, but it's not super poorly done, so I can deal with it. But yeah, it's really good. There's a lot more political intrigue in this book than action, and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy very political, kind of conniving, twisting, turning books, so this was definitely one I enjoyed. As soon as I finished it, I ordered the next 2 books in the series, so I will be reading those soon. Next, I read a very surprising 4-star, and that is Women's War. And I'm not going to talk too terribly much about this because I am going to do a full why you should read Women's War book, but this is a adult fantasy book that is super underhyped and underrated, and it's so good. It's really different, I think. Like, it has its issues. Don't get me wrong, it's not a 5-star, so it does have some issues with like the magic system and some of the world building, but it is set in this super patriarchal world where women are basically nothing. Like, they are basically your child bearers, and that's kind of it. And women aren't allowed to use magic. Magic is, very common in the world, but women are not allowed to use it. It's not ladylike. And basically, like, if your husband divorces you, you are tainted, so you are sent to this abbey of unwanted women where you basically have to live as a prostitute. And that's kind of where it starts out, and it's about, in this book we follow a couple different female perspectives, one being Alisoun, who is like a middle-aged mother who is the daughter of the king, but she's been disinherited because he divorced her mother and sent her off to the abbey. And then we also follow Elin, another very young girl who is a princess thrust into queendom. We follow a couple other like smaller characters. We follow one of the women that's living in the abbey, and it's just so good because these women just rise up and find their power, and I loves it. It's like a fantasy feminist manifesto, and I will definitely be doing an entire video on this book. I'm super excited to film that. And finally, we have my 5-star read of the month, and if you watched my 5-star predictions video, you will have seen this book before, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic. I loved this. This is an adult fantasy book set where there are multiple Londons: Red London, Black London, Grey London, and White London. Black London is completely shut off. It's been corrupted by magic. Red London is thriving with magic. White London is got magic, but it's very stagnant and sterile and violent. And then Grey London has no magic. And it is about Kel, who can travel between all the Londons, and Lila, who is from Grey London and kind of ends up on this adventure with Kel to try to kind of right some wrongs that have happened in the magical community. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I need to get the sequels because The way it ended off, it's like you know that there's more to come, but there's not a cliffhanger, which I like. Like, I'm like, I like that I know that there's more. But it was still wrapped up pretty nicely and could really sit as a standalone, I believe. But I'm not going to let it sit as a standalone. I'm going to read the rest of the series. So yes, definitely a 5-star read. This was a really good one. All right, there you have it. These are all the books that I read in the month of April. Let me know if you have read any of them, if you love them, if you hate them, what you read this month. I will see you guys next time. Bye.